back a year ago.
This episode of the Beer Bound Podcast is brought to you by Rolling Hops Beer Tours.
Hey everybody, Garrett here from Rolling Hops, as always joined with my partner,
Andy.
We're here to tell you guys about our virtual craft beer tour offering. With what's going on in the world, unfortunately, we haven't been able to run our historical craft walking beer tour, so we've pivoted to taking the virtual experience of craft beer directly to you guys. Wonderful for team building events, corporate events, even just a night out or in, for that matter, with your friends and family. And we're doing this online.
Have any questions about the beer tours or want us to tailor make an event for you? Just shoot us an email or send us a message on any form of social media. Rolling Hops, you can find us everywhere.
RollingHopsBeerTours.com is where you can get a hold of us, and we'll see you guys soon.
Cheers. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Beer Bound Podcast. We're very excited to be joined by James Ponting and Mindy Ponting-Moore from Craft Coast Canning. James and Mindy are the co-founders of this crafty enterprise located in Fredericton, New Brunswick. The company was founded in 2017 to meet the growing needs for professional packaging options in the Atlantic craft brewing scene. Craft Coast Canning has grown to become a leading supplier for cans and other materials to breweries across Canada and the United States, and an important packaging partner for over 100 breweries. Craft Coast Canning supplies cans, packaging materials, brewery chemicals, scientific instruments, and other adjunct materials for craft brewing. They offer a voluminous number of additional services as well. So without further ado, we welcome James and Mindy to the Beer Bound Podcast. Hello to you both.
Hey,
Thanks for having us.
that was quite the introduction there. It was a mouthful.
A lot of alliteration in our name. It's a rough start, I think, to trying to get to know.
Gotta get it all in. Can make sure all the bases are covered.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. Thanks so much both for you guys for joining us. Can you tell us, maybe start us off one by one or together, whichever you prefer, maybe a little bit about yourselves, your connection with beer, with canning, with packaging. Just give us the little rundown.
Sure, happy to. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Well, I guess it kind of starts together a little bit. We were both students at the University of New Brunswick in Fredericton. And I was doing my master's at the time and working as the VP Finance. Was a big important role for the Graduate Student Association, which runs a bar. And being my soon-to-be husband, he spent a lot of time at that bar late at night.
Maybe a couple times.
Yeah. And we just, I guess, just noticed while there just how few taps there were opening up around town. And we noticed that there was a huge number of craft breweries around, and we were wondering, well, where the hell are all these guys selling their products? Because you're not seeing it on the shelves at liquor stores. And the number of bars aren't increasing proportionate to the number of breweries. And at that time, tap rooms, there were a couple of them opening up, but it was mostly places with boutiques at the time. So we were wondering, well, what is the way that these guys are getting to market? And
We kind of watched as our favorite at the time breweries, the number of taps that they had at the bar went from 9 down to 6 down to 3 as the competition started moving in, and we
cannibalizing each other.
We thought this is going to be a problem unless they can distribute. So yeah, I had been a part of a home brewing club. I'd home brewed for years, and a lot of these home brewers went on to open up breweries. So that opened the door for some conversations. We started talking to some of these owners and saying, well, what are your plans to package? When are you getting out into the stores? And the common thing that we were hearing is, well, we can package, but it's so slow because we have to do it manually, and this is how we do it. And we bottle with the beer gun and manual capper, or maybe they have a little bit more sophistication. But we just spent, $1 million setting up our brewery. We don't have another $300,000 to put in a bottling line or a canning line. So that's not going to happen until year 3 or 4.
Yeah, let alone finance the inputs to feed that machine, right? So buying cans at the time was challenging because you had to buy them with really high minimum order quantities. Things like, how are you going to decorate it? Just getting labels, right? There were manufacturers of some of the press-on labels, and that largely came out of people that were already servicing the wine industry. So they started to adopt some of the smaller scale stuff, but you really weren't seeing large amounts of things like shrink sleeving options, pre-printed options. Those weren't around at the time yet either. The market's just changed astronomically in 5 years.
So we started talking to these breweries and said, well, what if we had the machine? What if we had the cans? What if we could decorate the cans for you? Would you pay us to do that? And without question, everybody said yes. So we were really lucky right out of the gate that we had a captive audience that was interested in supporting us and our growth. And
signed some letters of intent, much needed early on.
The bank came together with some financing for us, and we got going with our first canning machine. And in those days, it was just the two of us in the earliest days.
There were 3 of us.
3 of us, yeah.
3 of us in the early days.
And a lot of early mornings, getting up at 5 a.m. to hit the road and drive somewhere far away to go and can for the day. And since then, it's grown so much, but that's essentially how we got started.
Nice. Yeah, and I like that you say growth. Like, I was just checking out your website, and it seems like the services you guys are offering now are sort of off the charts. I saw some consulting and like obviously packaging and things like that. So it seems like you have some really nice growth. And I like you mentioned, just earlier on when you started started talking about, how you like handle distribution. So I guess you're more than just canning, from what it seems like.
We're really lucky because we have, I feel like a lot of companies say this, but we have a really great team, right? But part of what makes our team so great is our diverse skill sets. So we've got PhDs that work for us. James is a professional engineer. I'm a practicing lawyer. We've tried to tap into the diversity of our skill sets. We've got tech developers. We've got graphic designers. We've got a wide collection. Accountants. We're pretty lucky. So what we've tried to do is to really tap into how we can best serve the small business person who's venturing into a beverage manufacturing, really any form that they want to take. If they want to be more of the brand owner, or if they want to do a more holistic approach where they're going to vertically integrate and have a standalone enterprise. We try and partner with them now basically all the way through. So straight from commercialization, how their product's going to be developed, into that end, how is it going to look on the shelf of wherever you want to distribute it. So and even to help them build those links for distribution.
Yeah, that's super cool. Like right from beginning to end. And I was noticing like also I think there's a recipe creation, or you assist with recipe creation. I guess maybe James, that's sort of where your brewing background will probably come into play.
Well, to be honest, we don't do a lot of it when it comes to beer. Most brewers are so excited about beer that they don't want to have us tell them how to make beer. They can make better beer than me. But one of the growth areas that we've seen is that as there was the growth of craft beer, craft beverage as a category has grown a lot, and that includes a lot of non-alcoholic beverages too. And that's where we are consulted a lot to help develop products and test for shelf stability and find out the right way to preserve these products so that 6 months later on the shelf it's still going to be something that's enjoyable to the end consumer and safe for them to consume.
Yeah, and James's background, he's a chemical engineer, so it is, and worked in food processing, and major projects before that. So what we've really tried to do is and I think where we've mostly found traction in this area is around that sort of commercialization for export. because that's where a lot of these beverage manufacturers are looking to grow, and that's where a lot of them meet those technological hurdles where it's no longer about just having a great recipe. It's also about having a great recipe that can last on a shelf, and having those, if you have to go the preservative route or the pasteurization route or whatever route you're going to take to protect the product integrity as you're getting up to that scale. So we're definitely doing a lot of consulting in that realm. We try and be pretty strict with customer trade secrets, so we tend not to release too much about what we're doing in that front, but that's where we're really seeing a lot of development.
It's super cool. Yeah, all along the lines from brewery to shelf to table. That's
Exactly.
a holistic approach for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So do you work with others? You said non-alcoholic beverages. Does that include like anything necessarily? If I have a kombucha enterprise or a juicery, stuff like that, you
Absolutely.
Both of those. I think one of our favorites is a beer for dogs. So it is made by dogs for dogs is what
Wow.
it's a brewery that is it's I can't reveal the trade secret, but it's non-alcoholic and it's nutritious, but it is made like a beer, and it pours like a beer, and it's popular among the pooches. So
sometimes your dog just needs to have a beer with you, right?
Yeah, right.
And you can buy it at some of the local breweries in the Maritimes anyway, and so you can go and crack open a cold one with your pup.
That's awesome.
Yeah. If you have a beer, you can't leave your dog just hanging there, obviously. Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So along with, so you have your mobile canning machine, correct?
Yeah, well, we have
several.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. As well as, so say I was a brewery who had a particular affinity for bottles. Could you accommodate that as well, or not so much?
We've thought about it. We don't see that there's a lot of demand for bottles. The industry just seems to be moving away from it. The customers aren't as interested in the bottles, and to be perfectly honest, they're quite expensive because most of the glass comes out of Europe or Asia, and with shipping prices these days, it's not economical to transport bottles to North America.
Yeah, and really, I mean, cans are infinitely recyclable, right? So we're seeing a large trend in just a greater awareness for eco-consciousness in at least in our customer base. So we haven't really seen much demand for it, but a lot of the people who are sort of teetering between bottles and cans end up saying, well, you know what, though, it's better for the environment to just do the can route. It's easier to transport. It's more efficient. It's recyclable. It's got a higher rate of recycling.
We don't have a bottle wash facility in Atlantic Canada either. So the bottles end up honestly in the landfill, or they get shipped away somewhere, which is not great for the environment either. So
interesting. We always get that question. Everyone's like, oh, bottles or cans? Like, you guys should know. And we're like, there's pros and cons to each, but we typically lean more towards the cans.
Well, yeah. What do you guys prefer as beer drinkers and beer experts? What ratio do you think you would buy in terms of a can versus a bottle? Is it 50-50?
In terms of like actual buying, like way more cans, way more cans. Yeah.
Like gotta be 93 to 7 cans for sure.
Yeah.
And more so because, to your point, you guys, you're saying like there is a gravitation towards cans, and we've seen that even more so over the last 2.5 years of this thing they call a pandemic, where a lot of local breweries are, trying to cut costs and be more sustainable, and cans just sort of do that, and that's fine. And there's, there is something to be said about, I guess, a traditional, beautiful looking bottle with the wax on it and all the bells and whistles, but
absolutely.
And a lot of our accounts that still bottle even a fraction of their production, that's what they're doing. They're trying to capture that classical essence of a beer in a bottle, and they, a lot of them have like a particular stylized bottle too, so it is a cool element, but yeah, it's
a lot of times they come out at Christmas too. So for a brewery to bottle by hand 1 or 2 batches at Christmas time, it makes sense. It's a cool novelty, but it's not the everyday mainstream package for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely seeing that. And when we buy stuff too, definitely more so on the can front. And, you know, everyone's like, oh, doesn't it taste different though? It tastes better out of a bottle, right? I'm like, pour it in a glass. It's not meant to be drank
Those
out of a
are
vessel,
the
right?
people that think that different noodles taste differently just based on the size, right? Like, or the shape. I remember my brother was like that. I remember, yeah, if you were making spaghetti, you had to have spaghetti noodles because any
That's
other noodle
right.
wouldn't taste the same, right? It's
Don't put the
I
linguine.
I can be persuaded that, you know, there's definitely something there about the psychological, the love of the bottle.
I think too with the cans, like, you know, there's a lot of misconceptions. Oh, it tastes tinny. Well, it doesn't taste tinny. They're all coated with an internal coating that keeps the metal away from the beer.
If they do taste tinny, you shouldn't drink it.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is a lot of brewers in the early days of cans would say, well, there's no way I'm going to can because of dissolved oxygen. And, you know, for a lot of breweries, that's something that when they first open up, they're not measuring, they don't have the tools to do that. It's a $43,000 device to measure dissolved oxygen in your beer. So that's something that we've been able to help the breweries with here. I know other mobile canners across Canada also, most of them do similar.
I think it's kind of industry
standard.
at least with the Canadian canners. Yeah. I'm not sure about the American ones.
But we make sure that every batch of beer that we package, we've tested some cans from that batch to know that the dissolved oxygen pickup is low. And over time, we've developed, you know, a bit of a body of data where we understand for certain styles of beer, you know, really where you're going to start to see the limits of what that beer can tolerate before it's going to spoil more quickly than you would want.
And I guess that's the big concern, right? Is just spoilage quicker than normal with those.
Exactly. It's not, you know, the beer isn't automatically terrible the second that it happens, but, you know, in 3 months, if you go and you crack open that beer, if it's got a higher amount of oxygen, it's not going to taste as good as the day it was packaged.
I just wanted to sort of come back to that point where when you were talking about, you know, okay, the beer tastes tinny out of a can, but James, you mentioned that there is the lining within the can. We recently had a conversation at one of our Beer and Bites events with a gentleman who I guess worked in the canning industry.
Okay.
And he was talking, well, we were talking about sour beers to preface all this. And he was just saying, you know, that the fact this sort of interiors of the cans, the lining, you know, they had to adapt with the sour beer trend. So maybe you guys can talk to that. Do you see that often? Do you have to like change some of the lining? How did that work?
2018 sucked.
It was, yeah. That was the year everyone learned about can liners. And I remember we had to buy the black lights, the flashlights, so we could shine them onto cans to read serial codes or serial numbers. So that way you could actually see what the liners were on each individual can, because it was the year that really ciders and sours took off.
At the same time that had happened, the law that was passed in California to ban BPA in cans was starting to cause the can manufacturers to move away from the traditional BPA liners. And at the same time that was happening, there was a massive can shortage.
Yeah.
So the first generation of cans that were BPA free were absolutely horrible for holding ciders, sours, like vodka sodas. Anything that was acidic was not good at all. And there was a lot of people that lost product because it spoiled really quickly. But the companies that manufacture the different coatings that go inside the cans, they pivoted very quickly and developed a new generation of BPA-free epoxies. And they work much better for everything.
It got caught really, really early. At least in our market, it got caught really early. And with our manufacturers that we work with. But I know for us, for a little while, because we received shipments so regularly, there were ones when we were trying to weed out, okay, well, what cans can we use with what product? Because we really had to know the pH of anything that we were going to put into the vessel.
I know we had a choice of what cans you were going to get in 2018. There was a massive shortage. So it was like, can you get a can? Okay, I'll take any can I can get. And once we have the can, you know, as we're learning about this and understanding the differences, it's like, okay, yeah, what do we have? What is it good for? Make sure, okay, these customers can get these cans, these customers can get those cans. You know, mark them in the warehouse. These ones have like a blue sticker, those ones have a red sticker. Blue's good for beer, red's good for cider.
And
no sours in this one.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a lot better now. I would say 99.9% of the unlabeled cans that get manufactured are appropriate for just about everything.
Yeah, and a lot of it too, it's always a function of time and conditions too, right? So
Mhm.
quite often, I mean, it's if you've got product that's turning over quickly in your warehouse and you're constantly manufacturing new stuff, it didn't impact a lot of people, but definitely there were some that
Sits around for 6 months and then you go and crack one
Right.
open and
Yeah.
then it doesn't taste the way it was
or it was a
supposed to taste.
particularly, there's a bit of batch variation or something that would have made it a little bit more acidic, that type of thing. But
Yeah, that was very interesting because it's something that makes total sense, but like you almost wouldn't think of it, victim of circumstance. It happened, right? Sour beers now
Yeah.
came on. All of a sudden, thing we've been using forever is, things have to change and adapt with the craft beer trends.
Absolutely. We got off pretty good out here in Atlantic Canada. I mean, we had a couple of issues with a few different customers that lost a little bit of product as this was all getting figured out and learned. But we heard stories about people in other parts of North America that were losing entire truckloads of filled cans.
Oof.
yeah,
Like just hundreds of thousands of dollars just gone.
yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Time to
Well,
call insurance.
Yeah.
That's why we have it, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, James, Mindy, where do most of where do the lion's share of your cans come from?
That's a good question.
It's changed every year, I think, because we started in 2017. 2018 there was a can shortage, so it was wherever the hell we could get them from. In 2019 we thought we had stabilized everything and had a good mix figured out. We've always sort of picked stability over I guess marrying ourselves to one particular supplier. That's just the way that was the lesson we learned in 2018. So we set ourselves up for a pretty good 2019, then COVID hit in 2020, and that has changed everything.
So we used to get a lot of cans from Asia because, again, diversifying our supply chain. So if there's a problem with supply in North America, we can still get cans shipped over from China or Malaysia, anywhere else.
It was also partly to do with the liner issue. We were able to customize things that we were importing with a little bit more certainty. So we were able to spec things a little bit better. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but we've had a lot of product diversity as we've grown. So we've seen a lot more challenging things to package in terms of their volatility in the can. So we've really tried to up our game in terms of knowledge and in terms of speccing the right materials for the job at any given time. So,
but to Mindy's point, when COVID hit, shipping prices, we used to pay $2,500 to ship a container from China to Halifax or Montreal. And that has gone up as high as $22,000 during COVID, and it's currently somewhere $15,000, $17,000. So it's not economical to ship cans from Asia. So most of what we get now is manufactured in Toronto and trucked out east. There's some specialty can sizes that they don't make in Toronto that we will source from other parts of North America, and we do get some cans from overseas still, some from China, depending on what we need and what's available, and some from the Middle East.
Do you see that as sort of a temporary supply chain issue? Do you think in due time you'll go back to the Asian markets, or no?
I don't know. I mean, it's always been sort of it's a complex thing when we're speccing out our supply chain, because we're always trying to balance a multitude of factors. A lot of it has to do with efficiency, a cost, obviously. Timing is a big factor, managing our cash flow, because what we do is we're, as distributors, right, we're floating the inventory so our customers don't have to a lot of the time, right? So we want to make sure that we're pretty sure we've got the sales before we take on suppliers that are going to make us paid 90 days in advance or whatever it is, which is the case with a lot of the international stuff. What we've seen, we were talking about it today, actually, just when we started in 2017, there were about 3 manufacturers of cans in North America.
2 dominant ones.
And then one that was quickly gaining traction because the other 2 were having their capacity bought by Coca-Cola and Red Bull, right? So what we ended up seeing was a massive amount of diversity now in the last year or so. I think we've got word that there's about 6 or 7 new plants opening up, and among, I think, 6 different companies or 5 different companies.
5 or 6 companies. Yeah,
So
it's crazy. It's grown so much.
there's a lot of growth in that area. It hasn't come online yet, so we're not sure how it's going to impact the market. But you know, we're pretty curious to see what's going to happen. We're excited for it because I think that that's going to give us a lot more ability to do what we went to Asia for to begin with, which was to get the best specs on the cans and to really be able to shop for the best product integrity to give to our customers. So
yeah, the tricky part is when it's a tight market, the manufacturers, they don't want to do anything out of the ordinary. They don't have to change their lines over. They don't want to have to have any downtime. So it's basically, this is what we can do, take it or leave it, versus the early days of us buying in China, they were so eager for the business. It was, well, what do you want us to do? We'll do anything you want.
Yeah, if you want this is where they're manufactured and this is the time of year. So you better get onto that order, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really lend itself well to trends in the industry. So obviously having the manufacturers start to be a little bit more flexible would be
good for the breweries and good for the end consumer.
Yeah.
It'd be good for everybody.
More competition in the materials and the products you source, ideally lowers costs, and maybe you'll be able to get the specifics you need in the time crunch you need them.
Well,
and competition's never a bad thing in any industry. It feels tough, always feels tough at first, but really it leads to innovation and in ways to just up your game in order to stay relevant, which is a great thing, and it's good for the end consumer because it keeps us all honest.
Yeah, for sure. And the I think with this too, we're going to see maybe a gradual transition to the benefits of it. We know with what's happening in the world right now, there's been a big spike in the price of aluminum, so the input for cans, right? So I think that's probably going to hang over for a while anyway before that gets resolved. So right now is not a great time to be a buyer of aluminum.
Most raw materials, actually.
That's true. That is true.
Have you guys seen the price of the cans of beer on the shelves going up in Ontario yet?
That's what I don't.
A little bit.
It's a good question. Have you noticed that, Garrett? Like one of our brewing partners said that too. Like aluminum prices have shot up, and I haven't really noticed the price of beer go up. Maybe I haven't bought beer in a while.
Not by a lot. I have seen some, like maybe your average tall boy is like $3.94, depending on the brewery. Sometimes the brewery products will vary as well, right? Some breweries see their beer as a little bit more of a I don't know, maybe I say luxury type brand, right? And then those prices are higher regardless. But some of the more, dare I say, value brands of craft beer, you'll see I've seen maybe a 5 to 10 cent fluctuation, give or take. Like 354 might have been the norm, or 345, and then it's up to 360 or something to that effect. I remember seeing it because there's one brand that I like to buy usually, and then I was like, oh, it's normally like 354, and then it was like at the 360 something. I don't care, I'm gonna buy it anyway. I support the brewery, I love the brand. But yeah, definitely seeing it in maybe in a smaller sense, but it's a real thing. It's happening.
I think it's coming. I mean, from what I've been hearing from talking to breweries out our way anyway, the price of malt has gone up quite a bit. So, that compounded with the price of aluminum is way up, as Mindy mentioned. So cans will inevitably go up. I expect there's probably going to be an adjustment in the price of craft beer where, $4 was kind of the norm. We're probably going to see $4.25, $4.50 probably be more the value level. Yeah. That's my guess.
Dave Buck of beer, whatever.
Yeah.
Long gone.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Well, I'm always amazed. I always think we're a little bit spoiled in Ontario because when you venture over to Quebec, or like, I'm not sure about New Brunswick, but Nova Scotia, like beer seems way more expensive.
It's more expensive out here.
Yeah. When we moved out here, we were young in our university days, and we that hit us very hard. Very hard. It's tragic.
We're both from Ontario. We grew up in Ontario and moved out to New Brunswick in our 20s. So yeah, definitely enjoyed the 24 bottle cases of Laker for $24 back in the day.
Yeah. Make her a Laker. It's about
we lived in Guelph, and the LCBO and beer stores weren't open on Sunday. So the only place you could get beer, because there was no microbreweries that really had their own retail, the only place you could buy beer on a Sunday was Sleeman's. So
Yeah.
drank a lot of Sleeman's beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You could just go to the brewery.
Just go to the brewery
Right.
7 days a week.
Yeah, that's a
And
great.
obviously, that's not a problem now because there's so many craft breweries
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
everywhere.
Club's got a
But
plethora
yeah.
of them now. Yeah.
Yeah. Back to your capacity and your production. So you said you have how many mobile canning machine? How many mobile canneries do you mobile canning machines do you have?
We have 4 that run around the provinces because we service multiple provinces. We've got 4 that run around all the time. And then we've got 3 others. They are in various locations. So we have a stationary setup that's at a customer's facility. We operate their packaging department for them. They're just at that scale, and we're helping them do their next phase of growth. And then we have our co-packaging facility where we actually help manufacture and blend products, and that is where we have the other 2 lines, but one of those lines is capable of doing backfill on the road if necessary. So we yeah.
So we got a lot of machines.
We've got a lot
At
of
least we
machines.
think it's a lot of machines anyway. I don't
It
know.
feels
There's-
like too many machines. I don't know.
It's a fair amount of machines, I think.
Yeah. How, like, for a bit of context, like, how do you move the lines? Like, what sort of transportation goes into this?
Oh, I thought you were talking about man effort, because it is just pushing that thing.
Yeah.
We have one we have to wheel up with a winch, but
Yeah, it's a little bit heavy. We use primarily pull behind trailers and
Yeah.
3/4 ton pickup trucks. We found that here that worked better for us than having a 5-ton truck, because most of the breweries that we're servicing don't have loading docks.
Mhm.
So we're able to just throw the ramp door down and roll everything right into the ground level doors. And yeah, that's primarily what we do. We do have a 5-ton truck that we have that has a lift gate on the back. We can use it for mobile canning, but we primarily use it to distribute cans to breweries that have their own packaging equipment.
Yeah.
Right. And like terms of like, okay, so say a brewery contracts you out for a day, how
Mhm.
much can you get done? How many cans can you get done in, say,
If
an
they're
8-hour window?
local, yeah, if they're local and there's not a huge amount of challenge with getting into the brewery and setting up, in an 8-hour day, we could probably get done around 10,000 cans. We've got lots of customers that have hired us for bigger jobs than that, so we can run longer shifts or we can run multiple days. But the average craft brewery in the Maritimes, a canning day is 5,000 to 8,000 cans. That's pretty average. So it's a pretty comfortable day's work, even with a little bit of travel.
Yeah.
So that does the actual cans, and then the machine does the labels as well.
We shrink sleeve most of the cans that we sell, and we do that at our facility in Fredericton. So everything's pre-labeled before it goes to the brewery.
Yeah, we do have an inline labeler that we can connect to the end of our machines. It depends on whether the customer wants it, but most of our customers prefer the shrink label.
Yeah, we've got it. Yeah, we do the inline labeling, but yeah, it's not the dominant thing that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the sticker.
Yeah,
that's
although
right.
we have seen a bit of a resurgence in it.
Yeah, it's
so-
getting more popular now. Like 2 years ago, nobody wanted to label their cans. Everybody wanted shrink sleeves. And it seems like there's a bit of the needle's moving a little bit towards the labels, but
Yeah.
I think for the look of having the full can covered and the different effects you can get with metallic looks, different varnishes, textures, and the cost of it, the shrink sleeves are definitely the way to go for anything that you're producing in a significant volume. For the stuff that you're just doing 1,000 cans or 2,000 cans one time, the labels make tons of sense.
Yeah, shrinks are definitely a good bang for your buck, and if you're, a lot of our customers, they're still playing with designs all the time. They're coming out with new products. They're changing their labels. Shrinks allow you to do that without the high minimum order quantity that print manufacturers
For the pre-printed cans.
pre-printed cans do. So it's still probably the best bang for your buck, but
For some reason, I kind of like the exposed silver topping. I don't know why. This is a label.
It's starting to catch on.
it's starting to catch on. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on trend right now. I don't think anything rings craft quite as much as the paper label, right? Like it's there's something about it that just says, yeah, this was just made today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool,
I
right?
kind of get that feel too. Like I think maybe to your point, like the beer that I've seen, like you see like that the sleeve sort of maybe picked up in trend, and now yeah, all the beers that I go and buy typically have that. I don't even know why it is. Like you said, it sort of like has that homier feel. Like I don't know, what would you even
Yeah,
call
there's
that?
there's
Yeah.
in the industry, from what we've seen, and from talking to our peers in the industry too, there's a constant ebb and flow between the idea of scaling into the next, at least maybe premium size industry, or keeping those craft roots. And those two things are a little bit at odds, because on one side you benefit from economies of scale, you start getting your flagship rolling, you start getting bigger distribution opportunities. On the other side, your heart is in your tap room, right? And that sort of craft feel. So I don't know, to me the print labels always ring true to that those early days. It's kind of an homage to your craft roots. But yeah, you definitely see we see a mix at the end of the day. But I think for this taproom season, we're starting to see a fair amount of label orders that are pretty cool.
I was just going to take it to the next step further, from canning to then labeling, whether it's I guess it's more so prior to actually getting to the brewery. But then you guys also help with like distribution, and it seems like third-party logistics sales, things like that. I think I was reading on your site.
We do that more on the co-packing side, the non-alcoholic stuff. It gets a little bit tricky for us to really facilitate a whole lot on the alcoholic beverages, just with the laws.
Right.
But definitely on the co-packing side, like for our co-packing customers, we have options where they can store the product with us. We can help them set up stores that have order fulfillment through the stores, and we can help actually with picking and packing the orders, or integrating their online store with a 3PL in a different market. If they want to be able to distribute out of Vancouver or out of Toronto, we can help them get all that set up, and then work with their 3PL to do reoccurring order fulfillment out of our co-packing.
Yeah, and where we do help with some of the alcohol manufacturers, it tends to be more around regulatory advising and helping to get them through those regulatory hurdles into new markets.
Where Mindy's a lawyer, she's able to help a lot of customers figure out how, if I'm in New Brunswick and I want to do this thing outside of New Brunswick, what do I have to do? And Mindy's able to help answer those questions.
Definitely comes in handy, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
On occasion, you don't get many thank yous as a lawyer.
Really? I think it'd be that wild. I guess maybe it depends on the kind of law, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I also do a lot of criminal legal aid. You don't get many thank yous.
Back on trends, because I think craft beer is just synonymous with trends in many different capacities, whether it be the styles of beer, whether it be that associated with a particular season. I mean, packaging is a whole different realm as well. I mean, you mentioned labels. Do you see, we talked about bottles and cans. Do we see any other trends sort of emerging in terms of, I don't know, like a different style of can or something in terms of packaging that's sort of popping its head out?
There's been some innovation in that area. There's definitely been some, I guess, talk about new opportunities. Nothing that's really been catching on too much. I think there's you're seeing it a little bit in areas like water manufacturing down in the States. They're trying a couple new things. Juice does some weird things down like on the West Coast. On the West Coasters.
On the decorating side, there's been some innovation in terms of being able to print directly on the cans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's actually been really exciting as a new alternative.
It's still early. All the machines that are out there doing this right now, in my opinion, at least, they're pretty slow and they're pretty expensive, and the quality of the print it's okay. It's depending on who you ask. Some people love it. Some people are like, this leaves something to be desired. But I think that we're going to see innovation in that area. We're going to see better, faster, cheaper machines hitting the market. and eventually that could dominate over labels and over shrink sleeves eventually.
Yeah, and that might coincide too with all these new can manufacturing plants opening up as well. So it might be a good time for purchasers at that time to start looking at diversifying their offerings.
There's also some consideration around environmentalism right now, and both from the breweries, the government, and the end consumer. So we're starting to see more of a push for more eco-friendly packaging. There are biodegradable 4-pack and 6-pack rings you can buy now. You might have seen them in the stores.
Oh yeah.
They haven't totally caught on, but some people are really gravitating towards them. There's been some people that have moved towards paper labels away from because most of the pressure sensitive labels are plastic still, like a shrink sleeve.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's some people that are starting to move to a paper with the thought that might be more sustainable. So that could catch on. The paper's a bit cheaper too, which, as people are trying to save a bit of money, that's definitely an option. Yeah, those would be the big ones. Anything around sustainability, I think, is kind of key right now. One thing that we are launching next month is a plant-based plastic shrink sleeve. So for anybody that wants to have a sleeve can that wants to have that environmental aspect around it, then they'll be able to have a plastic material that's actually made from corn.
Yeah.
So
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess you never really think too much, like, when we speak to the breweries that we work with and we're close with, there's eco-friendly processes in making the beer and the spinkering that's reused or sent to farms, and making sure their eco footprint or carbon footprint anyway is as small as it possibly can be. When it comes to the canning, every can has a label of some sort, right? And there's thousands of those, so that's an interesting point. And I know you mentioned like paper labels, so like paper labels that still have, because they obviously need some sort of adhesive on there, right? So does that also sort of play into being biodegradable or eco-friendly?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know about the adhesives, if they're actually biodegradable or not. That's a really good question. I know in Quebec, they've outlawed single-use plastic for labels on beverage containers.
Oh, okay.
So you can't put a plastic like pressure-sensitive label or a plastic shrink sleeve on a can anymore. So even if you're so you can put a paper label on, but you can't put a plastic lamination on that paper label. So you have to use a different way to seal it, so that way it protects it from the water. So there's a lot of varnishes that are going on these labels that have to be low VOC varnishes to comply with the laws in Quebec.
Yeah.
And that could start to catch on in other markets too. If it's working there and it's perceived as better for the environment, it could start to catch on.
Yeah, there's a lot of innovation in that area right now, and even on things like inks and dyes that are being used, it's there's still a large gap to overcome, I guess, in order to make sure that we're using sustainable products and also food grade products at the same time, which is the other challenge that sometimes happens with print materials. So I know early on we really focused on making sure we were vetting our materials and then trying to keep things as sustainable as possible, but you can only do so much when it comes down to plastic options. So it's a challenge.
Cool. Canning innovations. So I guess, is there going to be an East Coast canning production? You guys going to get in on the can producing fun?
Oh God.
Do you have $500 million that you could lend us?
I was just gonna go dig it up in the backyard for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Honestly, I think we're of the mind that there's going to be enough capacity with the new plants coming online that there's probably not as much of a need. If this was 5 years ago and somebody had the vision to build a can manufacturing plant, sure, I think that would have been a great idea. But today, I think it's probably a little bit late to the party myself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And there's other directions that we're hoping to go and hoping to grow. And I think that takes us away a little bit more from the commodity battle that you see in that area as well, and into some new directions that are
The thing for us as a local option in Atlantic Canada is like a can is a can, right? So you can buy a can from anywhere, and they're more or less the same. So the question for us always is how can we create value for our customers? So we're always looking for ways that we can really help our customers solve problems and bring more to the table for them than they could get from other competitors, and just be the best option for them to work with.
Mm-hmm.
That's constantly our goal, and so far we've done reasonably well with that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what about the canning lines themselves? Do you know where those are predominantly manufactured? Or all of your canning lines from the same manufacturer, or not necessarily?
They're not.
They're not. But they are all North American. And I think we've tried to, we've seen a lot of machines that have come from other places. I won't say where, but there's definitely been some more diversity in canning line manufacturing. We put some big exclamation points over some manufacturers when we hear about them, but the ones we've used have been really good. So.
Yeah, we have Cask and Wild Goose are the
Yeah.
two different brands that
The
we
two
use.
brands.
And they both have their strengths, and they both have their things that, if I could design my own canning machine, then I would change this and this. But I mean, they both get the job done really well. They're reliable machines, high quality machines for sure.
Yeah.
They're both American? Is that what you said?
No.
Cask is made in Calgary.
It's Canadian.
Wild Goose is made in Colorado.
But we would say that, yeah, if you're a brewery and you're looking for buying a machine, be very careful about third-party ones that you've never heard of.
We've seen some horror stories of people buying sort of off-brand canning machines, and the company goes bankrupt, and then you have like this machine, you have no parts, no service, no support.
Right.
That's definitely kind of a risk. Also a risk if you're buying, just sort of no-name machines from other parts of the world. You can get the machine, it could be half the price, but it might even work well out of the box, but when things start to break and fail, it's really hard to get support and service.
Call your local mobile canner and ask them what they would do.
Absolutely.
You don't see many mobile canners using third-party
the knockoff brand.
Yeah, the knockoff.
Stuff.
and usually for good reason.
Right.
So.
And most this is one thing that's funny is a lot of breweries, if they decide to buy their own machine, they're kind of nervous to tell their mobile canner, like, because they don't want to spoil the relationship. I know for us and for other mobile canners that we've talked to, we'd rather be a part of that process with them and help them get the right machine, help them have a good experience, and then hopefully they'll keep us around to sell them cans and labels and boxes, and if their machine breaks, they've got somebody they can call and give them a hand fixing it. And we have that type of relationship with a lot of our customers that have eventually decided that for a variety of different reasons they wanted to have their own equipment, and it works fine. It's a good relationship.
I mean, if our model works, mobile canning, then eventually our customers are going to scale to the level that it does make sense for them to buy their own machines. So we do want to be part of that conversation, because that's part of our success story too. So it's a little bit self-interested when we say that we want to know. Because obviously we do want to keep those business relationships for as long as we can, but it also helps us justify our existence to the next generation of breweries that are still starting out. There's
still new breweries opening every day. I still get calls from people that are saying, hey, I'm opening up a brewery in 6 months, what is it going to cost to get you to can my beer, which is amazing, because I didn't know if the growth would continue. And it seems to be still continuing.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement. There's just a lot of local love. I'm assuming this is like that in every part of Canada, at least, with the sort of local loyalty to your local brewery. But in New Brunswick in particular, in Nova Scotia and PEI, the population is not very big. So the fact that you get all of them out there to your facility to pump down a few pints, that's a pretty massive achievement, and these guys are thriving because they've got local patronage. So
for sure,
yeah,
it's huge. Yeah, well, we definitely see that here. At least we're predominantly in Southern Ontario, and that craft beer community. We talk about it day in, day out, like on our own events, and even when we're just talking to other professionals in the industry. People love their local craft brewery spot, and local craft breweries love other local craft breweries.
Well, I mean, hey, you guys made a whole podcast around just people that love beer, right? So that's pretty awesome. And
True.
it's really spawned a whole industry. I mean, we wouldn't even exist if people didn't love craft beer and want to support craft beer. So it's amazing, and people don't even think about that when they buy that can of local craft beer. They may stop and think about, oh, well, that's great, you know, I'm helping this local brewery. But it's not just the local brewery, it's all their suppliers and all the tradespeople that they call when they have electrical problems or they need to get a plumbing thing fixed. And it's a whole spin-off thing, and it creates so many jobs and creates so much value. It's really, really, really amazing.
And it's a cool industry.
It's totally cool.
It's always on trend. You know, it's cool to see thriving small business, right? And to get to see so many people actually want to be a part of small business, right? It's
amazing.
Wearing it's like wearing your home team swag, right? You see the local hats on people and whatever it is.
I probably see more craft beer hats now than I see sports teams.
Oh, that's a thought I've never thought of. Yeah.
They are trendy.
Hey.
Oh, there you go.
Shameless self-promotion. Yeah.
We can call ourselves craft beer. We're close enough.
Yeah, we're close enough. Was there a lot of competition for, like, I know we said the community is strong and friendships they supersede unfriendly competition in craft beer mostly, but do you have a lot of competition, whether it be friendly or unfriendly in New Brunswick or in the East Coast?
Yeah, we do and we don't. I mean, there's obviously suppliers that can sell our customers a lot of the same types of things that we can sell them.
On the materials front?
Yeah, like cans and boxes and pack tip carries. You can get those ordered in from Quebec or Ontario, and that's an option. Some people take that option. A lot of people like to have somebody that's local to deal with, that they can get things shipped faster. A lot of times we can deliver same day, which is really a huge benefit for a brewery. I mean, just today I had a brewery call me up and say, hey, you know, I just checked my warehouse. I don't have any cans left. If I had 2 pallets left, I don't have another load coming in from the factory for 2 weeks. Can you get me 2 pallets today? Yep, no problem. At your door, you got it. And so we do well servicing that sort of niche. There's another local distillery that has a line that's mobile, that does a couple mobile canning jobs here and there, but we're pretty friendly with them. I mean, we've helped them out a few times with cans and different things, and it's nice to have people that you can call, and, you know, a machine breaks down. Hey, do you have this part by chance? Like, our machine's down and we can't get a part for 6 hours. It's nice to have those types of alliances. So we'd rather play nice.
It's sort of the same thing as, you know, seeing our customers scale out of mobile canning. It's if there's more people in the industry, then it just justifies the industry's existence, right? So there is an element. I mean, obviously you don't want it to dilute to the point where everyone's crushing each other, but I think healthy competition is a good thing.
For sure.
We benefit from seeing you know, the industry succeed, all levels of it. So
the pie is big enough to be cut up into a few slices. Anyway. Maybe not a million slices, but a few slices is okay.
Yeah, and one area we're finding a lot of growth. I wouldn't say that it's astronomical or anything. There's a lot of co-packers in the area now. I think that's true pretty well everywhere. It seems to be a direction people are going to. The one thing is every co-packer seems to have its niche. So we all kind of specialize in certain areas, and you know, again, we don't really hesitate if there's something that we can't do, we'll point you to the co-packer that can, because we'd rather have a good relationship for the same reasons that, you know, if it's something that we just know someone can rock it at, then
don't burn any bridges. And
and at the end of the day, you want your customers or the industry itself to benefit, right? And to see the people that come and ask for your opinion have a good experience at the end of the day, right? It serves no one to serve them wrong. So yeah, we're maybe that's the maritime way, I don't know, but
Not a bad way. Well, James, Mindy, we're coming up on our hour mark, believe it or not, but I typically like to end sometimes just getting a bit of a feel of sort of the industry that you're in, just sort of the good and the bad. Maybe you can both tell me kind of the best part about owning a canning packaging company, as well as maybe the side that's not so sexy or enjoyable. Maybe like, can you give me the good and the bad in a few sentences?
you want to do good?
There is. Sorry, what's the good?
I know. That is easy. No, I'll start with the bad. The bad. There are days when you smell like whatever you've been packaging for 8 hours, and you're sitting in a car and you're terrified that the police are going to pull you over because even though you haven't had a sip, you know that you're going to get the questions.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of stress because there's just a lot of moving parts, and especially because we've diversified so much in terms of our service offerings. We're constantly trying to maintain the integrity of the customer experience, but it's a challenge. It's a lot to juggle.
4 mobile lines, all in different locations, plus 2 stationary ones running on any given day. And whatever could possibly go wrong some days does go wrong. And on top of that, a central warehouse that's trying to distribute orders to support all 6 of these lines, plus our customers that have their own packaging equipment. There's days where we have to get 10, 12, 15 orders pushed out the door, and it can be stressful and everybody's on a timeline. But we do pretty well with it. The good part about it is honestly, we've got to meet a ton of incredible people. We've got to try a ton of amazing beverages. We get to learn about new products before the public does, because we're usually printing the label for it. So that's pretty exciting and cool. And not as much now as there was before when I was actually the guy running the canning machine. But in those days, there was a lot of beer in our fridge all the time. Every time you would go do a job, the customer would say, "Oh, you like it? Oh, take a case back with you, or take a 6-pack back with you." So that's pretty friggin' cool.
It is a great industry to be in. Like the industry is so collaborative, and it is. So it's always trendy, it's always cool, it's always fun. Everyone is, especially right now where we're gearing up for taproom season and festivals again. And after 2 years of whatever we want to call the last 2 years, everyone is optimistic about what the summer can bring and actually getting to have human contact again. And a lot of that's going to take place in your local facility.
Beer festivals again.
Beer festivals. We're all hoping for them. So COVID, if you're out there listening, stay away. Yeah, just chill for at least the next.
Give us the summer. Give us at least the summer.
Just the summer.
Yeah, but it is, it's a seasonal business, so it has challenges with seasonality. But I think probably more than we've ever seen it before. This summer is the one that people are really excited for, because we all are in desperate need of human contact again.
Ready to start socializing.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Yeah.
Ditto. I know, Andy, you said
ready.
we're wrapping up a little bit. I don't want to go too much past around, but I have to ask one last question. Preference for both of you: East Coast or West Coast IPAs?
Oh, New England IPA all the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one.
We've been spoiled out here with those, so
I love the tropical fruit flavors, the low bitterness, but just punch you in the face with aroma and flavor. That's where it's at for me. What about you guys?
Fair enough.
I agree. I think, yeah. I don't know about Garrett.
This is Tara. I asked this question, but getting asked this question, I'm a shitty person because it depends on my mood. Like, I like both of them. I like them all. They're all great. It might depend on my mood, let's say. But if I had to lean one way, it'd probably be the East Coast.
Well, the best part about craft beer is you can drink whatever your mood is telling you, because there's so much diversity in the product. Yeah.
You know what?
Absolutely.
The right answer was actually both. That was the right answer.
There you go. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Decisive.
You have two hands.
Good point. Very good point. Very good point.
Awesome.
That is good. All right. Well, thank you very much, James and Mindy from Craft Coast Canning. Thank you very much for your time. We look forward to chatting again next time.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks a
thank
lot,
you.
guys. This was awesome.
Thank you so
Pleasure.
much. Have a good
See
day.
ya.
Take care.
Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all our interviews and beer-related content. Remember, craft beer is here.